Hey guys, welcome to Daniel Gian Talk, and today I'm going to be reviewing Gully Boy, directed by Zoya Akhtar, starring Ranveer Singh and Alia Bhatt. Well, I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. For all of my negatives that I felt while watching the trailer, I had none of those while watching the actual film itself. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. The film is all that matters. The trailer's a trailer. It's advertising material. I don't really give a shit too much about that, but I do give a shit a lot about the films themselves. And I'm pleasantly surprised that the movie turned out the way it did. And I'm gonna just get the negative. I have one huge negative about the film, but I'm gonna get it out of the way, right now. That way, I can just focus on the positives of the film. And my one negative was it was just too long. And when you write a script, normally what you do as a screenwriter is you write everything out. You throw everything in it, and you make sure to leave no page unturned. That way, you have a complete picture. And through the rewriting process, that script tends to, not always, but most of the time, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. There's a saying in the filmmaking world, your movie exists 3 times. The script movie, the film movie, the production film, what you actually make on set, and then in the editing room. And so I personally feel like this was the script that was shot, and there really wasn't a lot of babies killed. That's what we like to call it in the film industry. And those are scenes that you might really enjoy, you might really like, but they don't necessarily add to the overall narrative. And if they get taken out, the audience might not know any different. So for me, the movie's about 20 or 30 minutes too long. I'd say at a minimum 20 minutes too long, but I just feel like there was a lot going on to the point where towards the end you kind of started to forget about certain characters because there was a lot of things being brought up, and nothing was bad. Nothing made me roll my eyes per se, or nothing I hated. It was just a lot of stuff. And maybe if it was a tighter film and then this was the director's cut, cool. But let's jump into the positives, because like I said, that's the only real negative I have, and I just have nothing but good things to say. Let's start with performances. Ranveer Singh, pretty damn good. It took me a while to get used to his haircut. I talked shit about it in the trailer reaction, about him not being hard and this and that. And the film explains that. To give the film 100% credit, I'll take back everything I said in that trailer reaction. You understand why he looks the way he does and how he transforms into the character that he becomes, all while still never ditching himself. He might throw the hoodie on, but he's not completely putting on sideways hats and going over the top like some of the other rappers that he eventually battles at the end of the film. He still maintains his well-kept, his button-down shirt and all that stuff. Maybe the Adidas jacket at most, but he kind of keeps it conservative through the whole movie, and I appreciate that. I really do like that angle where he doesn't get lost in the film. He doesn't become a superstar. He kind of remains himself, but he does ultimately grow. He does ultimately change, and so I respect that. But as a performance, Ranveer, the performance is definitely aided by the fact that Ranveer himself has been doing Bollywood films forever. And so now, when he's dancing on the music videos, you buy it, you believe it. You can see why he's a star. Well, he doesn't become one, but I mean, you can understand why he gets accepted into this competition, why he might be doing well, because the actor can portray these moves very well. And maybe that rubs people the wrong way, but for me, this is a fantasy film, and we go with it. And so I personally didn't get bothered by it. The film never breaks into song and dance unless it's motivated by the story. The music videos, I mean, those are pretty much the only times they ever break into song and dance. Are the music videos themselves. But speaking of great performances, Alia Bhatt, amazing, phenomenal. She stole every single scene that she was in. It doesn't matter if Ranveer was there. It didn't matter who she was against. She was brilliant. My favorite scene in the whole movie actually was when Ranveer shows her the Valentine's Day message, a text, and they're in the bus together, and she looks at the phone, and she basically has this moment where she's like, who's this bitch? Who's this bitch that's texting you? And she gets out of the bus, she fucking calls her, I guess they're friends or something, shows up at her job, and confronts her about it. Straight psycho status, is like, why are you texting my man? And then she proceeds to beat the shit out of her. I loved it. I love that scene because I think it was shot in one take, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know about you guys out there. Maybe, you've experienced a crazy girlfriend or two, but I've definitely had one, not Indian, Mexican. And so watching her act crazy out of passion, out of love, out of whatever emotion you want to attach to that, I can relate to it because there's a lot of Hispanic women that act very similar to that. So, in a weird way, even though this story took place on the other side of the fucking planet, I could relate to it. I could see it. I could, understand what's going on. That scene with the beer bottle where she hits Kalki Culkin in the face. Like, that was also, I mean, just all of those elements I enjoyed a lot. Some might think they're over the top, but if you've experienced it or you know people who've experienced that, dealing with that type of emotion from your significant other, it's not that unrealistic. It's pretty accurate. Maybe not the bottle, but everything else for sure. But besides that, her performance was great though in general. I mean, just their relationship together on screen, their chemistry worked. You could believe that they had been together since 9, 10 years old or whatever it was, 13. And it worked. Every time they were on screen, it was cute, and it was just, I don't know, it made me feel good. Because she respected him, even though that she was from this like upper middle class family and he was definitely on the lower side of society, lower caste. She didn't care about that. She just wanted him to succeed. There's a line in the movie that I loved where it was like, do what you want. Like, pursue your rap career, whatever. I'm going to be a fucking surgeon, so we're not going to have to worry about money. And I like that because, I feel like traditionally it would be the opposite where, and here in the States, I mean, where the man has to bring home the bread, to the money, to make sure that everyone's fed at home and all this stuff. So to see the roles being reversed, again, as an American, as an outsider, it's pleasant, it's nice. I don't know how it's received for you guys out there in India, but, I'm very curious to know. Let me know what you guys thought of that. But for those like those elements, I enjoyed. I actually wish there was more of them. There was a lot of them in the first half, and then her character kind of disappears towards the end because there's just so much going on. And that's why I said at the beginning that the film's just too long. So when you finally see her again, you feel like, oh man, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, I kind of forgot about you. And that's unfortunate because the performances are so well done and everything. But let's see, cinematography was beautiful. I actually enjoyed the way it looked. At times, like especially the beginning with the carjacking scene, everything felt confident. I knew exactly what the director wanted to do, but it felt very assertive, like she knew what she wanted to do, and that's the most important thing. When I watch a movie and you see just coverage everywhere for no reason, I always think, man, the director just didn't believe in his or herself to just stick to one thing. They decided to go cover it from many different angles to save their ass. And, that's another thing that also happened in this movie, and it's unfortunate because the movie was doing so well at doing what I just said, being very meticulous. But then that first rap scene, which I understand contextually, I understand why that scene exists when you have Cher, the lion, he basically roasts this guy who's belittling this woman as she's playing guitar on stage. That scene, it would have been awesome if that scene were done in like 3 shots. You have one shot that's just focused on the rapper, and then you have one shot that's focused on Ranveer up top. But instead, they shot it like a music video, kind of, where you have these crane shots, you have different crowd shots, you have them getting super hyped and stuff. And I understand why she did that, and I don't really fault her for it. But, what came before that was more meticulous, more timed out. Like I said, that carjacking scene was, I think it was like one shot when they start to steal the car. And so, that takes a lot of time and energy to do that. And, it's a difference of tastes. That's how I would have shot that scene. That doesn't mean that what she did was wrong. Because like I said, I don't really fault her for it. It's just, for me, sometimes the film skirted between being an independent, rough film and then being like a mainstream film where it didn't want to take as many chances. And so like that was another issue I had, where I loved the independent side of the film. I enjoyed it a lot. And then there was these little moments where the Hollywood, well, as I would call Hollywood elements come in, the mainstream elements kind of seeped into the film. and then it became like a slightly different story, but it never stayed with that too long either, where you felt like, here we go into cliche now. But, just enough to keep your interest going, and that's ultimately why I enjoyed the movie, because it kind of just teetered this line between being an independent film, but also being this mainstream film. You do have scenes that are talking about cast, and there's a beautiful moment where he's in the car. Ranveer Singh's in a car, and he's driving his like the person he works for, and she's in the back seat crying, and we hear him, like, we hear a voiceover of Ranveer as he's writing in his journal, and he's basically writing down lyrics saying how, you're in the back seat crying, we're in the same fucking car, but because of the part of society I'm in, this lower rung of society, I can't look over and ask you, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you out? I need to sit in this fucking seat and drive you and shut the fuck up. So even though we're in this big world, but we're in this one car separated by a fucking back seat and front seat, we might as well be worlds apart. And that's a huge commentary. I enjoyed that. Like, there are a lot of strong moments like that that it makes you think, it makes your mind work, it makes you understand the dichotomy between where Gully Boy is coming from and where he's ultimately trying to end up. And that's empowering. That's a strong message. And he also never quits. He goes, when he decides to quit his job, he ends up going to stealing cars to make ends meet, to support his mom, to support his brother, because his father married a second woman, and they're living in the same house. Like, so I mean, all these they're not little, but all these elements, they were balanced enough to where they didn't feel over the top or unnecessary. And that's pretty hard to pull off, because if you make it too melodramatic, you might destroy his story. So, like, hats off. I compliment the movie for that. Even though I felt it was too long, it still never bored me. I never felt like angry at anything that was going on, and I think that's a huge accomplishment in dealing with subject matter like this at a time where I feel like at least Indian cinema in the last year isn't really taking chances like this. I mean, and not that this was a huge thought-provoking movie it's transcendent or something, but this movie can be seen alongside Tumbad as trying something different. There's song and dance, there's a love story, but it's a little bit different. Is it the most edgy fucking thing? No, but I don't think it ever set out to be. But there are definitely some strong moments. I mean, when Alia Bhatt, when she ultimately hits Kalki Koechlin in the head with the bottle, and then she gets arrested, and then everybody's gossiping about, like, oh, look what she did. She beats another woman, and et cetera, et cetera. The mom pulls her out of med school. Like, you're not fucking going anymore. And, she begs and begs. And, I mean, there's a scene where the mom slaps the shit out of Alia Bhatt. Like, so there's a lot of physicality. There's a lot of abuse going on. But at the same time, it's kind of just life for some people. And I appreciated that. I just, because as an outsider, it makes me understand things a little bit more. Because I'm not saying everybody's life's like this, but some people's lives are like this. It's a slice of life, and that encourages me, that educates me. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the entire fucking movie is when there's a bunch of white people touring, like, the slums or wherever Gully Boy's from, of Mumbai, and this guy's, like, taking him on a tour, like, oh, and there's these white people just taking pictures of all this, of all of of India, and they pay the auntie or the grandma money so they can tour the house. And then, because what they were saying was real. I mean, the actors they cast, those white actors, were great. Normally when you see white actors in Indian films, they're the most over-the-top, unrealistic fucking white Americans ever. Like, you would come to America and never encounter someone like that. These are kind of real people, so hats off to that too. And the things they were saying, I'm not going to say I could see myself saying that, but I can definitely see that happening, because I've been to places in this country, and I've heard white people talk about things like that, where they, oh wow, look, we're in East LA, and wow, look at this, and whatever it might be, where, oh, we're in Compton, and then they talk about this, and oh, this is where it's stupid shit. NWA, this is where they filmed their music video, and it's just tourist stuff, and I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the end of that scene where one of the tourists is wearing a Nas shirt, And Gully Boy, he sees him and he's like, "That's a nice shirt." And then the white guy starts to mansplain and he's like, "This is Nas. Nas is an American rapper from da 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 da." And then Gully Boy just like, he's like, "Yeah, I know." He doesn't say it. He just starts rapping off one of his songs, like word for word, boom, boom, boom. And then he's like the white guy's like, "Oh, that's cool. Can I take your picture?" And it's a scene that didn't need to be in there, but I'm 100% glad that was in there. Like, if that were cut from the movie, I'd be disappointed, because that right there helped explain the world, helped explain where he was in society and all that stuff. So all these little setup moments ultimately ended up being great things. Last negative, though, real last negative, is the ending of the movie. The ending of the movie is really, really weak, unfortunately. When he's at the competition, he's at the finalist competition, and then he finishes and he does this, and then it says Gully Boy. When that happened, I was like, wait, what? The movie's over. And then I took a breath and I was like, okay, the movie wanted to drop the mic. That's how it wanted to end it. Like, all right, he busted the hardest rap that he possibly could of the whole fucking movie. Fucking Gully Boy, boom, credits, end of the movie. At first I was like, ugh. But then I took a second to realize, okay, it was an artistic choice. But then the movie did something that I didn't like, and I don't understand why it did this either. I don't know if they didn't shoot as much as they wanted to do. They couldn't book Nas. I don't understand, because the reason why I have this problem is after the title card happens, it fades back into the movie, and then it starts to go like a montage, and they don't really show that he wins per se. And maybe this is supposed to be ambiguous because it doesn't matter, and I appreciate that. I don't have a problem with this. I'll explain why this is an issue in a second. I'm just explaining the ending as I interpreted it. They don't show that he won the competition or not. And maybe they did, but since the writing was in Hindi, I couldn't read it, like, because they showed like newspaper clippings and the TV articles. I don't know what that said. It might say winner or something. So if it did, let me know in the comments. But it didn't give me any subtitles, so I don't actually know what it said. So I'm assuming it just said this, finalist, whatever. And because it doesn't matter whether or not he wins, because if he didn't win, he still was able to rap and go to this stage and do what he wanted to do and be in this competition, be a finalist. And if he's still stealing cars, whatever. I doubt it, though, because he busted his friend out of jail. But, again, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming he won, which is why you get to see him at the very end on the main stage, on the big stage. I'm assuming that's the Nas concert. That's why I would assume he won. But, again, I'm not 100% sure. And so, after he paid off, he gave money back to his grandma, he bailed his friend out, he got back with Alia Bhatt, everything seems to be good and golden, and now he's performing, and then he's like, "What's up?" And his parents are there, his dad's crying, his dad fucking hated the idea of him being this rapper, so like the story kind of culminates and comes together, and then he starts rapping, and then it fades to black, and then it goes to credits. So my issue with the ending is, and the reason why I feel like it's weak, is it should have been, when he first does that rap in the finalist competition, mic drop moment, don't cut to the title card there. Show him clapping, show him applauding. Maybe you don't need to show him, add extra drama and pretend like, oh, let's up the stakes, let's see who wins, let's have the moment where it's like, in second place, in first place, something like, maybe we don't need that scene, and I get that, but it would have been way more effective if the last thing we see of the movie is him at that concert, and he's like, "Let's go," whatever, and then it starts, Gully Boy, boom, and then credits. That would have been way more effective, because where it stands now, the movie ends at that finalist competition, and then we end in an epilogue, and so like it kind of takes some of that punch out. That there's a punch there that I feel like was there, and then it kind of got deflated by the ending, and maybe I'm just nitpicking, I don't know, but anyway, let's get into the actual rating of the film itself. So overall, I would give it a solid 8. I definitely highly recommend it for those out there who haven't seen it, because why not support this type of cinema? That's how I'm looking at it. So I'm actually glad that it's doing well, or at least that's what I read before I started doing this review, that the movie's doing well on box office. We'll see how it does past the weekend. You never know. But overall, pretty damn good, solid movie. If it were shorter though, it could have possibly been a 10 out of 10, no doubt about it. But what did you guys think of the movie out there? Did you guys see it yet? And if you have seen it, let me know in the comments what you would rate this film, because I'm definitely curious to know what you guys thought of it. And yeah, so let me know in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video.